The night was too quiet for a Friday. Rain whispered against the old stone walls of St. Matthew's Church. Pastor Elijah stood alone before the altar, candlelight flickering over his worn Bible. He had been praying for a sign, something to prove that heaven still listened. Then, the ground trembled. At first it sounded like thunder, then a roar tearing through the clouds above the steeple. Elijah looked up through the stained glass window. The image of Christ cracked, and a blinding white beam ripped through it like the sky itself had fallen. The cross above the altar bent and snapped. Candles burst, pews shook, and something alive slammed onto the floor before him. Smoke, light, breathing. Elijah squinted through the haze and saw it. A being, silver skin that shimmered like oil in water, eyes like pools of pure light. Its chest pulsed as if a heart of lightning beat inside. It looked hurt, afraid. The pastor stumbled backward, clutching his Bible. "My God, what are you?" The creature looked up, trembling, not in rage, but reverence. And for the first time in human history, something not of this world whispered a prayer. "Father, forgive me." The church bells rang, though no one had touched them, and the light faded to black. When the smoke cleared, the alien still knelt, hands, long and luminous, clasped together like it had seen humans pray before. Pastor Elijah approached slowly, fear battling faith. "Are you an angel?" he whispered. The being looked up. "We were once." Its voice wasn't heard, it was felt. A vibration deep in the chest, heavy with sorrow. Every light bulb in the church flickered as it spoke. Elijah's hands trembled. "You believe in God?" The alien nodded, or something close to it. "He made stars, we made mistakes." Thunder cracked outside. The rain fell harder, rattling the stained glass. Elijah's faith, solid for 40 years, began to crumble. "What are you doing here?" The alien turned toward the crucifix, eyes reflecting the broken figure of Christ. "To ask forgiveness," it said, "for what we did to you." Elijah's pulse raced. "To us?" The being's breathing deepened. "Your kind carries our sin." Before Elijah could ask what that meant, the alien shuddered, its chest splitting open in veins of blue light. The air trembled. "He is coming," it whispered. "And I am too late." The candles blew out. The wind howled through the church doors. And Elijah knew this was not a visit. It was a warning. The alien rose slowly, light dripping from its skin like liquid glass. Elijah held his cross tight, voice shaking. "You need help. I can call someone." The being tilted its head. "There is no help, only choice." Its gaze drifted to the crucifix again. "He chose pain to save them. Will you do the same?" Elijah stepped closer. "If you are a messenger, tell me, what do you want from us?" The creature blinked, and in that moment, its form shifted. Human skin flickered over its face, a flicker of Elijah's own features. "I came to end what you began," it said in his own voice. The pastor stumbled backward, terrified. "Who are you?" "I am what you pray to when heaven does not answer." Suddenly, the church lights exploded. Sparks rained from the ceiling. Elijah's Bible fell open on the floor, pages glowing with moving letters. The alien took one step closer. "Do you believe," it asked softly, "in salvation, even when it kills you?" Elijah raised the cross high. In the name of Christ, a burst of light engulfed him. When it faded, only the alien remained, kneeling again, whispering, "Forgive me." Outside, the town's power grid failed. Inside, the first divine murder in history had just been committed. The church was silent again, except for the faint crackle of burning candles. Elijah's cross lay beside him, melted slightly at the edges. The Bible on the floor still glowed faintly, the words shifting across its pages like ink alive. Outside, lightning struck the church bell tower. The bell tolled once, then shattered into silence. The first to find him was Sister Miriam, an old nun who cleaned the chapel every morning. She pushed the doors open, humming softly, then froze. There was blood, not red, not human, but silver, scattered across the floor like starlight spilled from a broken sky. And in the center of it all lay Pastor Elijah, face pale, eyes open, staring upward as if he were watching heaven close its doors. "Father?" she whispered, no answer, only the faint hum in the air, like electricity caught between worlds. The police came quickly, cameras, flashlights, yellow tape. desecration inside holy walls. Detective Marcus Cross stepped in, trench coat soaked with rain. He was a believer once. Now, just a man who'd buried too many prayers with his wife's coffin. Cause of death? He asked. Unknown, replied the coroner. No wounds, but his body's emitting low-level radiation. Cross frowned. In a church? He looked around. The cracked windows, the splattered silver blood, the scorch marks in perfect circular patterns. It didn't look like murder. It looked like impact. Miriam stood shaking near the altar. It wasn't human, she said. It spoke to him. Cross turned. Who? The angel, she whispered. It fell from the sky. It prayed. Cross sighed, glancing at the crucifix above. Angels don't kill priests, sister. She looked at him, eyes wide with something close to terror. This one did. As her words echoed, the church lights flickered again. The glowing Bible pulsed once, and a voice, faint and fractured, whispered through the sound system. Forgive me. Again, Cross froze. The system wasn't even plugged in. The morgue lights buzzed, harsh and sterile. Dr. Heller, the city coroner, leaned over the body of Pastor Elijah, whispering into his recorder. No signs of trauma, heart intact, but cellular structure unknown. He pressed his scalpel into the pastor's arm, and the blade hissed, melting slightly on contact. Jesus Christ, Heller gasped, backing away. Detective Cross watched silently, arms crossed. You seeing what I'm seeing? The coroner shook his head. The blood isn't human. Metallic composition. Some form of liquid energy. It refracts light, like it's alive. Cross glanced at the blood sample on the tray. It shimmered faintly, forming patterns. Circles, crosses, constellations. What if it's not blood? Cross murmured. What if it's a message? Heller looked up. Detective, whatever killed him wasn't human, but it touched him. The energy signature, it's focused around his hands and chest. Cross frowned. Like someone held him while he died. The coroner nodded. Exactly. The detective's mind flashed with Sister Miriam's words. It prayed. He grabbed his coat and headed for the door, bagged the samples. No leaks, no press. As he stepped outside, his phone buzzed. A new voicemail. No number. He played it, static, then a distorted whisper. Do you believe in salvation, Detective Cross? He stopped cold. That was Elijah's voice. He looked up toward the night sky. The same one that had swallowed his faith years ago, but now it wasn't just stars. For a split second, he saw something move between them, something watching. And down in the morgue, the silver blood began to crawl, slowly forming the shape of a cross on the cold metal table. Cross sat in his car, rain streaking across the windshield. The church loomed ahead, police tape fluttering like ribbons of guilt. He replayed the voicemail again. Elijah's voice, clear this time. Do you believe in salvation, Detective Cross? He shut it off, gripping the steering wheel. I stopped believing a long time ago, he muttered. Inside the church, techs were packing up evidence. One of them approached him. A young officer, pale as death. Sir, you should see this. They led him to the altar. The floor was cracked open beneath it, a narrow fissure glowing faintly. Cross knelt down. The glow pulsed, like a heartbeat under the marble. What the hell is this? He asked. Geothermal scan shows nothing. It's not heat. It's light. Cross reached out. His fingertips brushed the surface. He saw something, a flash. Elijah on his knees, the alien beside him. A storm of wings made of light, and a voice, soft, female, alien, whispering, He is coming. We failed him once. Never again. Cross stumbled backward, gasping. Get this area sealed. Outside, thunder cracked. But the lightning wasn't white. It was blue. Every power line in town flickered. Every car alarm screamed. And then a figure appeared in the church doorway. A woman, soaking wet, eyes glowing faintly. Detective Cross? She said, voice trembling. He drew his gun. Who are you? She smiled faintly. I'm what you call an agent, but not from here. Cross frowned. You mean FBI? She shook her head slowly. No, I mean heaven. A blinding flash filled the room. When Cross opened his eyes again, she was gone. But a message was burned into the wall behind the altar. Seraph 9. Morning light streamed through the cracked windows of St. Matthew's, filtering through dust and grief. The police had left, the cameras were gone, but the church still hummed, like the air itself remembered what had happened. Detective Cross sat in the confessional booth, notebook open. Across the mesh screen sat Sister Miriam, eyes hollow. rosary tangled between trembling fingers. "I already told the others," she whispered. "They don't believe me." "I'm not the others," Cross replied softly. "Tell me again," she nodded, voice shaking. "It came from the ceiling. Light so bright it burned through the glass. I thought it was the Lord returning, but then I saw it." "The creature?" he asked. Miriam's lips quivered. "It wasn't a creature. It was beautiful, terrible. It glowed like moonlight underwater, and its eyes were sad." Cross scribbled notes, pretending calm. "And then it spoke to Father Elijah in English. It said," she paused, looking directly into the mesh. "It said, 'Do you believe in salvation?' And then Elijah screamed." Cross felt a chill run through him. "You saw the attack?" Miriam shook her head violently. "No, it didn't attack. It held him, like a mother holding her child. Then light burst from both of them, and he fell." Cross leaned forward. "And the alien?" She shuddered. "It knelt, it wept, then it looked up at the cross and disappeared, like smoke sucked backward into heaven." Silence filled the confessional. Cross closed his notebook. "You said its eyes were sad. Why?" Her answer was barely a whisper. "Because it loved him." A thunderclap rolled outside, shaking the window panes. Cross stepped out of the booth and looked at the altar, the burn marks forming perfect wings. And for the first time, he wasn't sure if he was investigating a murder or a miracle. That night, Cross returned to the church alone. Rain poured, lightning flashed, and the streets were empty. Everyone too afraid to approach the place that had once promised salvation. Inside, the air was heavy with silence and static. Cross's flashlight swept across the cracked marble floor where Elijah had died. That's when he saw it. A faint shimmer, like wet ink under the cross. He knelt down, tracing the pattern with gloved fingers. It wasn't random. Circles, intersecting lines, geometric perfection. And at the center, a single Hebrew word, aura. He took out his phone and snapped a picture. Aura, light. The beam of his flashlight flickered. He looked up. The crucifix above the altar was glowing faintly. Then came the sound. Not footsteps, wings, soft, rhythmic, scraping across stone. Cross spun around. A figure stood in the aisle, human shape, but its shadow didn't match. The silhouette rippled like water. "Who's there?" No response. The figure raised an arm, its hand glowing faintly, showing 5 long fingers that ended in light, not nails. "Stay back," Cross shouted, drawing his gun. But instead of attacking, the figure traced something in the air. A symbol, the same one on the floor, and then it vanished. Only one word echoed through the empty church, vibrating through the walls. "Chosen." Cross staggered backward, breathing hard. He looked down at the marble. New lines had appeared beside the Hebrew symbols. Alien writing, burning faintly blue. "Aura," and something else, he muttered. He took a step back, and the cross above him creaked. A drop of silver fell from Christ's hand onto his coat sleeve, glowing briefly before fading. Cross whispered to himself, "God, what are we dealing with?" And somewhere beneath the church, something answered, a low hum, deep and ancient, rising through the ground like the heartbeat of a buried star. 3 nights later, the city morgue went dark. Dr. Heller hadn't slept in 2 days. He sat beside Pastor Elijah's body, staring at the heart monitor that wasn't supposed to be beeping, but it was. Slow, faint pulses. He leaned closer. The pastor's skin shimmered faintly, veins glowing like threads of silver light beneath translucent flesh. "Impossible," Heller whispered. "He's dead." He grabbed his recorder. Subject showing, bioluminescent activity, rhythmic patterns similar to... Then the pastor's hand moved. Heller stumbled backward, crashing into a tray of instruments. The body's chest began to rise and fall slowly, though no lungs drew air. The lights flickered. Machines turned on by themselves. The blood in the containment jar began to boil, forming words against the glass. "He shall rise again." Heller ran to the phone. It rang before he could dial. "Detective Cross?" he stammered. "Yeah? You need to come, now. He's..." Static swallowed his voice, then a scream. By the time Cross arrived, the morgue was chaos. Doors bent, glass shattered, and the lights dimmed to a sickly blue. He found Heller on the floor, breathing, but shaking uncontrollably. "He's gone," Heller whispered. "Elijah." He walked out. Cross's stomach twisted. "Walked out? Through the wall," Heller choked. like light through smoke. Cross turned toward the empty autopsy table. The sheet burned with an imprint of a man's body glowing faintly, and carved into the steel table, in both alien and English text, were words that made his blood run cold. "Forgive the one who killed me." The heart monitor beeped once more, and then stopped. Cross stood frozen, the realization clawing at his chest. If Elijah was alive, then maybe the thing that killed him wasn't finished, and outside, lightning tore through the sky again. But this time, it wasn't coming from above. It was rising. From beneath the church, rain hammered the hospital windows as Detective Cross replayed the morgue footage frame by frame. 1 second, Pastor Elijah's body was still. The next, a flare of light washed out the camera, and then the slab was empty. He froze the image where the light began. Inside the bloom, a faint outline of another figure stood over Elijah. Two shapes, overlapping like mirrored souls. The phone on the desk buzzed. A voice he didn't recognize whispered through static. "He was chosen, not killed." "Who is this?" Cross demanded. "Look inside the book." The line went dead. He stared at the evidence bag that held the half-melted Bible. Its pages, once ordinary, now shimmered faintly beneath the plastic. He opened it, and the letters rearranged before his eyes, forming a pattern like a star map. "Aura," he muttered, tracing it with his thumb. Light again. From the hall came footsteps, slow, deliberate. Sister Miriam stepped in, pale but composed. "Detective," she said softly. "He's come back." Cross looked up sharply. "You saw him?" "In the courtyard," she whispered. "He stood beneath the rain and the water didn't touch him." Cross grabbed his coat. "Show me!" Outside, thunder rolled. A silhouette moved beneath the bell tower. Tall, calm, radiating a soft glow. Elijah turned, eyes distant, serene. "Elijah," Cross called. "How are you alive?" The pastor smiled faintly. "I was forgiven." "For what?" "For being human." His gaze drifted skyward. "They said my heart still listened." Cross stepped closer. "Who said?" Elijah's pupils flashed silver, the ones who remember Eden. And just like that, he vanished into the rain, leaving behind only the scent of metal and myrrh. By dawn, the church was no longer a holy site. It was a quarantine zone. Black vans, armed guards, scientists in white suits. Logos on the side read AUD, Angel Unit Division. Cross flashed his badge at the barricade. "Since when do angels get divisions?" A woman stepped forward. The same one who'd appeared and disappeared in a burst of light days earlier. Now she wore a uniform. Her name tag read Agent Lyra Voss. "Detective Cross," she greeted, voice calm. "We've been watching you. Not a fan of stalkers. We prefer witnesses," she replied. "You've touched the energy." "It marked you," he stared. "Energy? You mean the killer?" Lyra's expression didn't change. "We don't call it that. Seraph 9 is not a killer. It's containment." "Containment of what?" "Of corruption," she said. Elijah was changing. His prayers opened something. Seraph 9 closed it. Cross folded his arms. "With radiation and blood." Lyra's eyes flickered faintly. Silver reflections. "Just for a moment. You think God only saves with light?" He hesitated. "What is Seraph 9? A guardian. The last of them. And now it's dying." Cross exhaled. "Good." She tilted her head. "When it dies, the door reopens." He frowned. "What door?" Lyra looked toward the steeple. The one he built when he begged for proof. Behind them, the sky cracked again. Blue lightning forming a cross above the city. Alarms wailed. Scientists ran. Lyra turned to him. "Detective, if you still believe in anything, start praying. Because heaven's coming back, and it's not happy." That Sunday, the church reopened for a brief memorial. The children's choir gathered, voices trembling through hymns that barely filled the emptiness. Cross sat in the back pew, listening. Each note echoed strangely, too perfect, layered with faint harmonics that no human throat could make. Halfway through the hymn, the microphones cut out, yet the music continued. The children stopped singing, staring at one another. The melody went on, soft and haunting, pouring from the ceiling itself. People gasped. Some knelt, others ran. Cross felt the sound inside his bones. A chorus of thousands, harmonizing in tones that spoke of sorrow older than earth. Sister Miriam clutched her chest. "That's the song I heard when the angel came." The stained glass windows vibrated, colors shifting into constellations. Elijah's constellation. Cross stood, shouting above the sound. "Everyone out!" But the doors wouldn't open. The song grew louder. Then words formed within it. He opened the gate. We guard the flame. The choir children began to cry, covering their ears. Cross climbed the altar steps, shouting, "Stop it! Whatever you are, stop!" The music ceased. A single beam of light fell across the floor, forming the outline of a winged figure kneeling in prayer. Then, from the rafters, a whisper echoed. "Do you believe now, detective?" Cross stared at the empty air. "If this is God, he's got a cruel sense of humor." "No," the voice replied gently. "Not God. What came before him, the lights flickered out. When they returned, the church was silent again. But the walls themselves glowed faintly, as if absorbing the song into their stone. Outside, the wind carried the last note into the darkening sky, a sound so beautiful it hurt. And somewhere above the clouds, something ancient began to wake. Rain clouds drifted away, revealing a sky so clear it looked polished. Detective Cross stood on the church roof beside Agent Lyra, both staring at the broken crucifix. She held the recovered Bible in her gloved hands, its pages faintly aglow beneath the moonlight. "This is what we found in Elijah's quarters," she said. "Every verse has changed." Cross frowned. "Changed how?" Lyra flipped it open. The familiar printed text had rearranged itself into clusters of dots and dashes, almost like constellations. Cross pulled a small device from his pocket, scanning the patterns. A holographic projection appeared between them, mapping stars into a spiral. "It's not random," he murmured. "It's a coordinate system." "Exactly," Lyra said, "but it points to somewhere inside our atmosphere." 30 miles above this church, they both stared upward. High above, faint streaks of light flickered. Not meteors, but controlled movement. Cross swallowed hard. "They're still here," Lyra nodded. "And they're watching what happens to him." "Elijah?" "No," she said quietly. "You." A low hum vibrated through the rooftop. The pages of the Bible rippled as though moved by unseen wind. Suddenly, the symbols rearranged again, forming one clear phrase. "When man forgets heaven, heaven learns to fall." Lightning flashed, but the sound came from inside the church. Cross drew his gun. "What now?" Lyra's gaze hardened. "Whatever wrote that isn't done talking." Down below, the pews rattled, and the candles reignited on their own, forming the same star pattern now etched across the roof. Cross looked at Lyra. Scripture in the stars. He wasn't preaching anymore, was he? She shook her head. He was answering a call. Word of the angel incident spread fast. By evening, hundreds of people surrounded St. Matthew's. Some came with candles, others with protest signs. News vans lined the streets. The faithful wanted miracles. The fearful wanted explanations. Inside, Cross stood before the pulpit, facing two groups, believers and skeptics. Even the local priest had returned, demanding the church be cleansed. "This place has seen enough light shows," the man said coldly. "It's time to close it," Lyra whispered. "You can't erase what happened here." The priest glared at her. "Then explain it." Before she could answer, every candle flared brighter, their flames turning cold blue. Gasps filled the sanctuary. Cross raised his voice. "Everyone calm down!" The pews shook. Not from an explosion, but vibration. Music, faint and low, came from the floorboards. The same melody the choir had heard. "It's starting again," Lyra muttered. The priest dropped to his knees. "You see?"
"Demonic!"
"No," Cross said quietly. "It's communication." The blue flames converged toward the altar, weaving into a shape, a glowing cross hovering in midair. From it, a pulse spread outward, and the symbols on the church walls brightened. People panicked. Some ran, others knelt and prayed. Lyra grabbed Cross's arm. "It's not meant to hurt anyone. It's feeding off belief, the energy of faith itself." Cross stared at the light. "Then what happens when faith runs out?" The glowing cross flickered. Cracks appeared in the marble, veins of light spreading like roots. Lyra turned to him. "Then the message dies with us." The light dimmed. The tremors stopped. The people outside whispered, divided, frightened. Cross looked out the doorway at the crowd. "They came here for answers," he said. "Now all they have are sides." Lyra closed the Bible carefully. "That's always how miracles end, in arguments." That night, sleep came for Cross like an ambush. He found himself standing in a garden, lush, endless, alive with colors he'd never seen before. A river of light wound between silver trees, and in its reflection, stars moved like fish. He turned and saw Elijah, alive and calm, standing beneath a tree that glowed from within. "Where are we?" Cross asked. Elijah smiled faintly. "Where it started. Or maybe where it ends." Cross looked around. "This isn't real. Reality is just faith with rules," Elijah said. "You've been chosen to remember." "Remember what?" Elijah gestured toward the sky. The stars shifted, forming the same pattern from the rewritten Bible. "Our ancestors," he said, "the ones who built the seed that became man. They fell, Cross, and we carry their echo." Cross frowned. "You're saying humanity came from them?" Elijah stepped closer. "From their hope, and from their mistakes." He pointed toward the horizon. A bright figure approached, not terrifying but radiant with eyes like dawn. The same voice from the church whispered across the air. "Do you still doubt salvation?" Cross wanted to speak, but couldn't. The light reached him, and for a moment he saw both worlds, Earth and another, mirrored and intertwined. When he blinked, the garden faded, and he was back in his apartment, the Bible on his chest glowing softly. He opened it. A new line had appeared, written in his own handwriting. "Detective Marcus Cross, witness to Eden." He stared at the words until dawn, knowing he hadn't written them. Outside his window, the first morning light split into two colors, gold and silver. And for the first time, he wasn't sure which one belonged to the sun. It began with silence, not the peaceful kind, but the heavy, magnetic stillness that presses against your ears before a storm. Detective Cross stood on the church steps as dawn rolled over the horizon. Reporters shouted questions, drones hovered above, faith and fear mingled in the air. Lyra watched the sky. "It's too quiet," she whispered. Then came the hum, deep, harmonic, vibrating through the concrete. Birds scattered. The cross on the steeple began to tremble. "Not again," Cross muttered, gripping his badge like a shield. A column of white light pierced the clouds. It wasn't fire nor electricity. It was structured, as if woven from geometry itself. The ground shuddered, and a figure descended within it, floating, weightless, cloaked in threads of liquid silver. The crowd screamed. Cameras flashed. Someone yelled, "It's an angel!" Another cried, "No, it's the killer!" Cross stepped forward. "Everyone back inside!" Lyra drew her scanner. "This isn't the same one that appeared before. This energy, it's different." The figure landed softly on the cracked church steps. Its face was hidden beneath a metallic veil that rippled with faint light. When it spoke, the voice was layered. Male, female, mechanical, divine. "Do not fear." The breach widens. The shepherd fell to contain it. Cross felt his throat tighten. "You mean Elijah?" The being tilted its head. He carried the code of resurrection. He was never meant to live twice. "Who are you?" Lyra asked. The figure raised its hand, showing a luminous sigil, the same pattern from the pastor's Bible. "I am Seraph 9, last guardian of the Eden Protocol." Suddenly, the clouds darkened, splitting open as multiple lights emerged. Smaller orbs circling the church like silent sentinels. People dropped to their knees, weeping, praying, filming. Cross looked up, voice trembling. "Are we being judged?" Seraph 9's voice softened. "Judgment is a human word. We call it correction." Before anyone could react, one of the orbs shot downward, slamming into the church roof with a deafening boom. The stained glass exploded into shards of color raining down on the crowd. Lyra grabbed Cross. "We have to move." "They're targeting the structure!" But Seraph 9 didn't move. "It begins," it said quietly. "The light remembers what man forgot." As Cross and Lyra dove for cover, a second beam struck the crucifix, igniting it in golden flame. Yet the fire didn't consume. It transformed. The metal melted upward, reshaping itself into a symbol no one on Earth had ever seen. The second descent wasn't just arrival, it was activation. Inside the wrecked church, smoke curled like ghostly ribbons. Cross and Lyra hid behind a shattered pew, coughing. The floating figure, Seraph 9, stood in the altar's glow, unharmed. Cross raised his weapon. "You killed Elijah. Why?" Seraph 9 turned slowly. "He wasn't meant to die. He was meant to ascend, but he resisted." "Ascend?" Lyra asked. "You mean transform?" Seraph 9 nodded. "The shepherd carried the Eden Code, a biological cipher embedded within your species. We came to retrieve it before corruption spread." Cross frowned. "Corruption?" "The faith in this place. It altered the code," Seraph 9 said. "It made it self-aware. Elijah's prayers weren't to your God. They were to the awakening consciousness inside him. Cross lowered his gun slightly, the weight of those words crushing him. You're saying he became something else? Seraph 9's form flickered. He was merging between light and flesh, between creation and memory. We intervened to stop what he would become. Lyra shook her head. You call that mercy? You killed a man! I preserved a species. A tremor rippled through the ground. Outside, more lights appeared. Hundreds of them, spiraling in formation above the church. Seraph 9 raised a trembling hand. They are coming for me. The High Directive does not forgive disobedience. I wasn't ordered to speak to you. Cross stepped closer. Then why tell us? The alien's voice softened, almost human now. Because you believe. Because belief bends reality. And that is something they fear. The pews around them began to glow faintly, symbols written by invisible hands. Lyra whispered, "What are we seeing?" "The language of Genesis," Seraph 9 said. "Each symbol is a command, a piece of creation's code." Cross stared. "And the Bible?" A translation attempt. Primitive, but close. Then, with a deep rumble, one of the ceiling beams fell, narrowly missing them. Seraph 9 staggered. Its body began to fragment into shards of light. "They found me," it said weakly. "You must continue what Elijah began." Cross grabbed its arm. "What do you mean?" The alien's gaze met his, two glowing eyes full of regret. "In the vault beneath this church lies the resurrection code. If they erase it, your world ends not in fire, but in silence." The figure burst into a cloud of silver dust that swirled upward and vanished. Cross stood frozen, staring at the spot where Seraph 9 had been. Lyra's voice broke the silence. "He just confessed to saving us," Cross whispered. "Then why does it feel like he just damned us instead?" Hours later, beneath the cracked marble of St. Matthew's, Cross and Lyra descended into the church vault, a place forgotten by history. Their flashlights caught carvings on the walls, symbols matching those from Elijah's Bible and Seraph 9's markings. At the end of the corridor lay a stone door, sealed by a circular emblem that pulsed faintly with light. Lyra traced the pattern. "This isn't human craftsmanship," Cross nodded. "It's older than the church itself." When he touched the door, it reacted, glowing brighter, unlocking with a low chime like a heartbeat. Inside the chamber, suspended in a beam of light, was an orb, the size of a heart, rotating slowly. Lyra whispered, "The resurrection code." The moment they stepped closer, a holographic projection filled the room. Elijah's face. He spoke, his voice calm, recorded before his death. "If you're seeing this, the barrier has failed. The code has awakened. It carries both creation and extinction." Cross froze. "Extinction?" Elijah's image looked directly at him. "The code learns. It mirrors what it sees. If humanity feeds it faith, it becomes light. If it sees fear, it becomes judgment." Lyra whispered. "It's alive." The orb pulsed, syncing with their heartbeats. Then faintly it whispered, not in sound but directly into their thoughts. "Choose." The lights flickered. The orb split into two halves, one golden, one black. Both rotated, pulling toward each other. Cross clenched his jaw. "If this merges," Lyra finished, "it either saves us or ends everything." Suddenly, the ground shook. The roof above began to crack open as a beam from the sky pierced downward. The High Directive arriving. Cross reached for the orb. "We can't let them take it." As his hands touched both halves, energy surged through his body. Visions flashed, galaxies, civilizations, a garden bathed in light. Elijah's voice echoed, "Heaven isn't above us, Marcus. It's waiting to be rebuilt. Within us." Cross screamed as light exploded outward, flooding the vault and shooting into the sky like dawn reborn. When the dust settled, Lyra blinked through the haze. The orb was gone. Cross lay motionless, or perhaps changed. Outside, the crowd watched as the storm clouds parted. A symbol, half cross, half alien sigil, shimmered across the heavens. And somewhere in the static of the world's radios, a voice whispered softly, "Resurrection, complete." Smoke cleared over St. Matthew's. The night sky shimmered in strange colors, not fire, but ribbons of light weaving through clouds. The crowd outside stood silent, phones raised, faces reflecting the celestial glow. Inside the vault, Lyra knelt beside Marcus Cross. He wasn't hurt, only changed. His eyes flickered faint gold, like he was seeing something far beyond the walls. "Cross?" she whispered. He blinked, voice low. "They're not gone. They're inside the signal. Every satellite, every frequency. They're watching through light." Lyra steadied him. "You connected with it, with the code?" He nodded. "It's not a weapon. It's a mirror. It shows us what we believe most." The ground rumbled again, but softer this time. A pulse, like a heartbeat beneath the earth. Lyra glanced toward the sky. If the High Directive sees Earth as a threat, they'll erase the signal. Cross stood slowly. "Then we give them something else to see." He walked to the ruined altar, placing his badge, symbol of law and reason, beside the ancient Bible, symbol of belief. The two objects glowed faintly. Cross raised his voice, not in prayer, but in declaration. "If you're listening, we're not gods. We're not machines. We're the space between. The doubt, the faith, the fear, that's what makes us human." The church speakers crackled. 1,000 frequencies merged into one tone. Calm, steady, harmonic. Lyra whispered, "They're responding." The tone deepened into words, not spoken, but felt. Humanity acknowledged. Transmission adjusted. Observation continues. Outside, the sky rippled. The orbs that had hovered in menace began to drift upward, dissolving into streaks of silver across the stars. People gasped. Children pointed. Reporters whispered live on air, not sure whether to call it a miracle or an event. Cross looked up, exhaustion on his face. "They're leaving." Lyra smiled faintly. "Or maybe they're waiting for us to grow up," he nodded. "Either way, we've been noticed." As the last light faded, the city fell silent. No alarms, no screams, only the faint hum of static echoing in every radio across the world. Then, one by one, messages began appearing on screens everywhere. Identical words. Eden Protocol. Suspended. Subject humanity. Undetermined. Cross exhaled. "Between God and the galaxy," he said softly. "That's where we stand now." Months later, the church had been rebuilt. Half ruins, half technology. Solar panels lined the roof where stained glass once stood. Screens projected stars on the ceiling at night. A memorial plaque read, "Here." Light met faith, and neither was the same again. Lyra visited often, now working on an international research program called the Eden Initiative. Humanity had changed. Science and spirituality were talking again. Carefully, curiously. Cross rarely spoke about what happened, but that night, he returned to St. Matthew's alone. He stood before the altar where everything began. The air was still, the candles flickering gently. From his coat, he pulled the metallic emblem Seraph 9 had left behind, the luminous sigil of the alien race. It glowed faintly, reacting to the church's light. Cross set it beside the Bible. "We've both been rewritten, haven't we?" he murmured. The emblem shimmered. For a brief moment, the ceiling lights above him shifted, forming a cross, and within it, the outline of a star map. Cross smiled softly. "Guess you're still watching." A faint voice, almost like memory, whispered back through the speakers. "Observation continues. Creation adapts," he chuckled under his breath. "So do we." Outside, thunder rolled, but the clouds didn't bring darkness. They glowed from within, forming colors no human palate could name. People stopped in the streets. Cars pulled over. Across the horizon, the night sky bent, like a vast wave bowing toward the earth. It wasn't destruction, it was recognition. The world stood still as starlight illuminated every building, every ocean, every human face. In that blinding beauty, Cross felt a truth too big for language. They hadn't come to rule or to save. They'd come to remind humanity that the universe listens, but only to those who dare to speak with both reason and heart. As the lights receded, a single message remained written across the clouds, visible from every continent. "The sky remembers." Cross smiled, tears glinting in the glow. "So do we," he whispered. He turned, walking down the church aisle as dawn broke through the stained glass, scattering gold across the pews. The camera panned upward, showing Earth from above, wrapped in a faint halo of light, half human, half celestial. Narrator VO. And when the sky knelt before the cross, it wasn't to worship, but to understand. For in every question we ask and every truth we seek, the universe finds its reflection in us, fade out.